On this episode of Just In Case You Forgot, Delaware County, I will talk to one of Stacey Colbert's co-workers from AEP.
And I think I didn't know until about the second day that people started asking if anyone had heard from her. Why way out in the country like that?
Listen to that now on Just In Case You Forgot, Season 2, Delaware County.
Why here? We don't know.
Just In Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.
After Stacey Colbert graduated from Ohio State University, Stacey had gone to work at AEP. I finally have been able to talk to one of Stacey's co-workers. Her name is Molly.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good.
Molly used to try to keep in contact with one of the Columbus detectives.
When this happened, I kept in touch with the Columbus detective who handled it, Amy Morris, a little bit. But I've had no contact with Detective Bessinger.
Molly told me about a notebook that she had kept at AEP.
And then I have this whole notebook full of articles from the paper and flyers that we passed out and the stamps with her picture on it that I kept. I actually kept them in my office at work for a long time, and when we got sent home for COVID, I brought that home with me for safekeeping.
I asked Molly, when did she start with AEP?
I started not that long before Stacey. I started there in February of 1997.
Are you still employed with him?
Yes, I am. I've been working part-time the past 4 years.
So you've been with him a lot of years.
I'm easing my way into retirement.
I wondered if she worked directly with Stacey and what she thought of Stacey.
We had, it was reconfigured back then. We were like a little department inside of a big department called corporate development. And back then, it was the Enron era where all the energy companies were exploring overseas possibilities. Marketing, trading was, in full boom. And we had such a cool department because we were connected to the mothership, but we are also our own little entity. And there was just a lot of young people, a lot of good people working in our department. And a lot of them some of them are still there and have gone on to bigger and better. A lot of people, of course, have retired.
Molly told me what Stacey was hired for at AEP.
She was hired to do marketing and communication research.
People have told me about Stacey possibly going on some kind of a business trip, so I asked Molly about this.
She had a conference in New York City that she was really looking forward to going with her boss, and she'd been working very hard on that presentation. And I just remember she would work late and she'd come in weekends, and I wasn't personally involved in what they were doing, but she was one of those coworkers who was always willing to help out. And she had such a positive, enthusiastic attitude. I've often said that, I wish everyone could be like that. She was just a joy to see and always happy to see you. And, we've all worked with people who are, Debbie Downers. But she was not like that. She was always upbeat, and her smile, she had one of those megawatt smiles that could just light up the room.
I asked who was the first to notice Stacey had not been showing up for work.
I noticed it, but I thought she may have already been on that trip. Back then, we didn't have like the calendars we have now that you can put those things on. It wasn't online. And I think I didn't know until about the second day that people started asking if anyone had heard from her. And if I remember correctly, her her boss was on vacation then. That would have been Monday.
Yes.
Monday after. So I actually don't think the conference was for another week, but I just didn't remember the dates.
How did people at AEP react when they found out Stacey was missing?
Everybody was extremely upset because everybody loved her. Everyone who worked with her just adored her, as I did. And it was just very hard to understand how an upstanding, responsible person like that would just, everyone knew she didn't take off on her own. That would not have happened. And as soon as I found out that her little kitten, Socks, was found outside her apartment, it dawned on me that something terrible had happened to her. She loved that cat so much. If we were going to go out after work, she would go home and play with the cat for 15 or 20 minutes to give him some exercise and love.
I asked Molly if she talked to Stacey outside of the workplace.
We've gone out for group happy hours a couple times. But I never went to her apartment. She never came to my house.
How often did they go out for a group happy hour?
Back at the time, I had just come from a company right across the street, Nationwide Insurance. And I was still, not knowing people at AEP, I would still go to the local pubs where my Nationwide friends were. And I think one time she did come with me, but then there was another coworker there that lived in the same complex, and they would pal around.
Did Molly remember the last time that she had seen or talked to Stacey?
It probably would have just been, what are you doing for the weekend? It was my mom's birthday coming up, and if I was invited to go out that night, they did, that Friday after work, I don't remember it.
You talking about the night that they all went to the Arlington Cafe there on Friday night?
Yes.
I asked Molly if she remembered who all did go out to the cafe that Friday night, just days from when Stacey would go missing from her Governor Square apartment.
Yeah, there were two guys from AEP that went, and neither of them could remember anything out of the ordinary happening. Yeah. And I know Wendy told at the time the police everything that she remembered about that evening.
Molly did surprise me with something that she said. She knew who took Stacey home that Friday night, which was a question from season 1. I do know the person's name now, however, I'm not going to mention it at this time.
And I did not know that person, and I don't know if he was an AEP employee.
Was there anything else Molly wanted to add to this?
Because I know from previous talks with the prior detectives that whoever did it, he had time to wipe the place clean, that it smelled of bleach. I know at the time, the neighbors heard her screams, but I guess there was probably not enough evidence to go knocking on neighbors' door and doors to, no search warrants or anything like that.
Well,
no evidence.
The thing with the neighbor that got me is that he heard something bad enough to where he did go check on her at 2 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The thing is, though, he contradicted himself by changing the story.
Oh.
Molly continued to stay in contact with the Columbus detectives.
Yeah, for a couple years after, the couple marches after that, around March, 22nd, I would call her and just to see if there was anything new, but there never was. Or maybe there wasn't anything she could tell me. Well, her sorority sisters are doing a good job getting the word out.
I asked Molly if she ever heard of anyone talk of any theories of what might have happened to Stacey back in March of 1998.
Well, just that We all think it was somebody she knew, maybe not knew well, but knew enough to open the door. And I'm, probably other people think too that he was either drunk or high and tried to have his way with her, and ended up, I've watched a lot of Dateline, so. The sad thing is she wasn't at AEP. She didn't get to be there that long,
How long was Stacey at AEP?
She started in October of 97. So what's that? October, November, December, January, February, March.
7 months.
Less than 6 months. Is that right? I could tell she loved her job and she loved, working in corporate. And
Molly did help put up flyers when Stacey had gone missing.
We plastered them all over. And one of her, a girl I used to work with was in that same sorority. She's my age. We're both 20 years older than Stacey. And so she was kind of my first liaison with this sorority. And then, we helped give them the flyers. And I spoke at one of the vigils. I don't know if they had more than one, but I was always willing to speak for AEP, saying what a great coworker she was and what a loss it was to our company.
How did Molly feel when she found out that Stacey's remains had been found in Delaware County?
Well, in one way, I was glad they had been found, but on the other, it just opened up so many more unanswered questions. And why way out in the country like that? It seemed like it at the time it must have been hidden, even though it was, not far off the road. But I always figured it was someone that had grown up in that area or the greater Columbus area that went up there hunting or fishing. Well, and at the time I was, also single, also living by myself, and it made me very paranoid for a long time.
I did talk to Paula again. You heard from her in season 1. I asked Paula if she knew the guy that took Stacey home that Friday night from the Arlington Cafe once we had his name.
No, I've never heard of him, and Danielle has never heard of him either. Yeah, no, that is a huge mystery.
Was the man who took Stacey home that Friday night someone that Stacey had just met that night?
I will say that it would be really unlike Stacey to get a ride home with someone she had just met. That would have been really out of character for her. I wasn't there. I mean, I always believe anyone's capable of anything given the right circumstances, but that would have been really unlike Stacey to take a ride home from a stranger.
I asked Paula if she had ever been to the spot in Delaware County where Stacey had been found.
I just don't know that I can bring myself to go. Emotionally, I don't know if I can go there yet. Maybe never. It took me 18 years just to go to her trial at Ohio State. I can't explain it. I don't know. I just can't.
I asked Paula if she had ever been re-interviewed by Delaware County law enforcement after Stacey remains were found.
No.
Never?
I was surprised by Paula's answer. I figured one of the first things Delaware County would do would be re-interview people from the Columbus Police Department's investigation.
Never. No. I only talked to one detective one time, and it was Morris or Phillips, whichever was the husband in that relationship. I can't remember which name went which person. I spoke with him once when he called me when Stacey was missing. That very first night was March 24th or 5th. I definitely remember I was celebrating my birthday. My birthday is March 24th. I feel like it was the 25th maybe when they called. But anyhow, I talked to him that night. Never talked to them again. I did, I think I already had told you that I'd gotten a tip that I called and left a message for the female detective. And she never called me back. And I don't know if it could have been something they already knew. Maybe her voicemail aided. I don't know why, but she didn't call me back. And no, I've never talked to the police except that one time when she first went missing.
I wish I could talk to the Delaware County Sheriff who handled this investigation back in 2004. However, the former Delaware County Sheriff still has not responded to my messages. So how did Delaware County get to know Stacey if they did not talk to the people close to her? I asked Paula what her thoughts are now when she thinks about the spot where Stacey was found in Delaware County.
I think he had to have known about that spot.
There was the question of what Paula thought about the fact that it took 6 years and a man who didn't even belong on the property to find Stacey.
I know that the police believe that she was there all along, that somehow when they did the brush clearing, they just didn't happen to clear that area. And I can definitely accept that as a fact, but there is a part of me that thinks that they maybe initially dumped her somewhere else and got spooked and moved her. That's kind of what I have always thought, but that's just a feeling that I have. There's no evidence out there to support it. It's just a feeling that I've always had, that just wasn't where where her remains were initially dumped. Right, and especially because they were not able to recover all of her bones. They think animals carried some of them away over time.
Yes.
So there's just really no way to know. They couldn't even determine a cause of death based on what they had.
The question that many people have is, why Delaware County? And also there is the question, how long was Stacey at that spot in Delaware County? Did someone put her there on the day that it is believed that Stacey had gone missing from her Governor Square apartment in Columbus, Ohio, March 22nd, 1998? On the next episode of Just in Case You Forgot, Delaware County, I finally make it to Delaware County, Ohio.
Bessinger, man. Yeah. No, I kind of remember like it was yesterday. They had a white tent set up there in the corner, and there was kind of a makeshift. I don't know. Our BCI agent was kind of looking at the bones under the tent and stuff. But my job at the time is I sat out here on the road, and we just recorded every license plate that went by us.
That and more still to come on Just in Case You Forgot, Season 2, Delaware County.
Why here? We don't know.
Just in Case You Forgot podcast is produced and hosted by William Swafford. Music was put together by William Swafford.